Life for me is all about the hustle. 7 a.m., I'm out the door. 8 a.m., in the office. Lunch meeting with a promoter, afternoon presentation with our team, dinner meeting with one of our DJs, and then my night is just getting started. My name is Sujit Kundu. I really have two jobs. By day, I'm breaking records and new artists for one of the biggest labels in music. By night, I'm booking some of the top DJs in the business. My day begins at 6 a.m. and might end watching the sun come up over the city. I started throwing raves at the age of 15. I remember the first time there was 4,000 people at a party I did. It was insane to see that many people come together off of something that I did. As time progressed, it became a business, and what started as a company of one DJ is now a company of 100. This is my life. This is what I do. People always talk about being happy. This is what makes me happy. It's crazy. Every time I pull out my BlackBerry, people are like, what is that? Screen so big. Who still has a BlackBerry? They want to touch it. They want to try it. They want to look at it. And next thing you know, they're asking where to get one and if I can hook them up. The reason I love the BlackBerry Silver Edition Passport is the keyboard. The feel, the touch. I'm able to type emails quickly, precisely. BBM, it's an easy way for me to communicate with my DJs, VIP hosts, promoters, club owners. It's essential to what I do. The Hub is an incredible tool. I can access everything on one universal inbox. It cuts out all the unnecessary clutter and keeps me faster on the go. Life for me is crazy. It's nonstop. I'm always on the go. Airport to airport, office to office, meeting to meeting, club to club, and anything that can help me become more efficient is key. For me, it's this device. The BlackBerry Passport is the key to my success. My name is Sujit Kundu, and this is my BlackBerry story.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Well, glad to be here.
So to start off, the origin story that sort of follows you is that when you were just a kid in California, a friend of yours made a bet that you couldn't throw a good party, and despite being just kind of a young teenager at the time, you convinced a local venue to partner with you. Could you tell the story of how you pulled that off even though you were just a teenager, and inevitably what went wrong as you were just starting out?
Well, yeah, I grew up in Orange County, and like party crews were a big thing, and they were really a heavy Hispanic, Mexican thing in where I grew up. And I played soccer, and all my friends were Mexican, and they were all in this party crew, and there was this big venue in the city I grew up in, Fullerton, called the Ice House, and it was like everybody wanted to throw a party there, and they kept trying and trying and trying, and they couldn't do it. And I was like, it's not brain surgery, it shouldn't be that hard. And I went over there and I cut a deal with the guy, and we ended up throwing a party there, and it ended up being a complete disaster, and the guy lost a ton of money, but we did the party there, and you know, my deal with him was that he was an investor, so I didn't really owe him anything back. But it turns out that I went back to him and I said, he's like, listen, I lost money, that was my choice, but it is what it is. And I was like, listen, I want to pay you back. So I ended up going and working for him all summer for free. And then I ended up running that venue for him.
How long was it before you ended up throwing your next party? Did you have to kind of mentally regroup after that?
Well, no, not at all. Once I told him that I was willing to work at his other jobs for free until I paid him back what he had lost, it really took a couple weeks, and then you know he slowly started implementing me into the day-to-day operations of the venue. And I mean, I probably didn't throw my own personal one for 3 or 4 months, but I was back right involved on a consistent basis pretty quickly.
You've said that you grew up with sort of a group of friends that would throw parties. Could you talk about what it was like to have a scene where you weren't just partying as a kid, but you were actually hosting these things?
I'm sorry, I don't know what you...
So you were also throwing the parties as well as partying along with it, which is obviously different than normal childhood.
Well, no, because when I was 16, like, Just Say No was big, and, all I thought was if you dated girls, you'd either get a DUI or get them pregnant. So I was just, like, working the whole time. So, like, when everyone was inside partying, I would be outside putting flyers on cars or working, and, it just was... We were getting paid for it, so it was like ludicrous to me that we could get paid to do have so much fun. And we'd go to all the cool parties and all the cool concerts, and we get VIPs and everything. And I was like, this is the greatest thing ever.
Early on, you started managing DJs as well, and started growing kind of your repertoire and being able to throw these parties and managing people. Could you talk about how you just started growing and eventually started your company, SKAM Artist?
Well, yeah. So what happened was as I became better at throwing parties, a DJ approached me and was like, listen, you know, you're already throwing all the parties. Why don't you represent me and handle my bookings? And I didn't even really know what that meant. And at the time, he was on the radio station in LA, Power 106, and he was on the starting side of his career, and he was getting like $50, $75 an hour, and the commission didn't even make sense. But then, you know, it started as kind of like a fraternity, you know, then he was like, we should get this other guy in, and then we should get this other guy in. And at the beginning, it actually, the DJ agency was kind of like built on a system where the first guy had to vote the second guy in, and then the third guy had to get the second two guys in onward, and so they had to vote him in, and it just sort of happened. And then next thing you knew, DJing became like a business, and we were already in the middle of it.
Could you talk about choosing the name Scam Artist? I believe in the past you said at first you had a little bit of aversion to calling your business a scam, but obviously it stuck and worked really well for you. Could you just talk about that decision?
Totally. So originally I had a company called Baby Re, and it was a joint venture with Emmis, and I had a partner, and there came like a crossroads where me and my partner were no longer getting along, and we decided to part ways. And when that happened, he kept the record label part of it, and I kept the management part. And so I went to a friend of mine, because I'm not really a creative type, I'm more of like a business type. And so I told him, I'm like, listen, I need help coming up with this name for this company. And I go, you gotta think for the walls or the sky, because you know, you could be naming the next Sony, or you could be naming the next Pepsi, and so you gotta come with it. And so a couple weeks later, he came up to me at a party, and he was like, I got it. And I was like, okay, go. And he was like, Scam Artist, and I really frowned. I was like, I don't know. And he was like, no, Sujit Kundu, Artist Management. He's like, Scam with a K. And I was like, I'm like, let me talk to some of the guys. And at the time, the DJs were split. Some of them felt the way I felt, and others felt, you know, that it was cool. And so then I ran into the guy again, and he was like, listen, he's like, I don't know what you're so concerned about. There's Murder Inc., there's Death Row, there's Bad Boy. He's like, it's not really the end of the world. And I'm like, and I was like, well, and then he's like, and then I got it. He's like, you know, pretend you're DJ X, and on the back of the shirt, it could say, I'm a scam artist. And that sold me right there. I was in.
There are reports in the past that Jay-Z actually wanted to purchase or invest in Scam Artist. Did that actually happen?
Yeah, it was a while ago when he had, I'm not sure how far along he was in Rock Nation, but it was definitely the earlier stages, and they had approached me, and they said that he wanted to get in the DJ business, and rather than compete, he just wanted to, you know, buy a company and get in. And we just sort of did the math, and at that time, the finances versus where Scam was, it just didn't make sense. So we just decided not to do it.
Did you get to interact with Jay-Z at all? What's it like to have him want to buy your company?
I mean, the strange thing is that, like, while I started in electronic music, when electronic music kind of faded out, hip hop started. So a lot of the artists that you see as like superstars now, I met them when they were, you know, brand new acts. So whether it be a Jay-Z or a Puffy or a lot of these guys, like, the community was a lot smaller then, so it grew like together. So, I mean, it's always flattering. Like, I remember when I was actually at a New Year's gig in Hawaii, and Lil Jon hit me up on MySpace, and he was like, yo, he's like, can my manager call you to see if we could be bookings? And I'm like, she's just Lil Jon, man. I'm like, yo, he's got Grammys. I'm like, this is crazy. And so I hit him up, but like, it happened through MySpace, and I was like, oh, really? And I was like, okay.
Yeah, you've said in the past that you have really close relationships with your roster, and obviously Lil Jon has been with you for a while. As you're one of the people who've had probably the most personal interactions with him, could you just talk about what it's like to have a typical conversation with Lil Jon?
I mean, he's very smart and very articulate, and, you know, he's not stubborn, so, you know, you can talk to him. A lot of artists, you know, get in an artistic mode, and they're very stuck in their ways, and so it's good to, you know, he's got strong management and a good team, so it's good when you're able to talk through situations. And, you know, I mean, all the DJs on my roster or artists, they're, you know, I feel like they're the reason we are where we are, and they've all contributed to my growth, and hopefully I contribute to their growth, and we keep it moving together.
With the Chappelle sketch, obviously the joke is that he's very articulate when he's kind of just having a normal conversation. Have you guys talked about the Chappelle sketch, or is that kind of your experience?
You know, the crazy thing is for most of my clients, I don't really talk about much besides like business, or then when we go hang out. Like, but like I know I represent a lot of clients that are in the press, and they have, you know, a lot of gossip stuff, and I really don't get involved in it too much. I know with John, it's funny because, like, usually when he goes to a club, he's really normal, and the clubs always hit me, and they'll be like, you know, when he got there, he looked like he was kind of bummed out, and he wasn't in a good mood, and, you know, and then once he got on the mic, he took, you know, he had a drink, and then it was showtime, and John's like, yo, I'm pretty sure I don't walk around like, what, all day, like, he's like, I'm just a regular guy like everyone else.
You now have many celebrities on your roster, such as someone like Amber Rose or Blac Chyna. What's it like when one of them starts taking off? Obviously, Blac Chyna has had a huge rise in the last couple years.
I mean, it's always great to see anybody succeed. So, I mean, you never know who's gonna get the next bit of momentum and who's not. So, I mean, me personally, I try to put the same amount of effort into somebody, whether they're, you know, at the top and rising up, or, you know, developing and starting from the bottom. I try to give them the same attention. But listen, it's always great when you start to get these calls and you're like, really, this person's calling me for this, and it's like kind of crazy.
Did you see the Blac Chyna Kardashian connection happening?
You know what's crazy? I didn't. Like, you know, I started in that space kind of with Nick Cannon was managing Amber Rose, and she suggested, you know, that I represent Blac Chyna. And, you know, when I first started working with Amber, I hadn't even met her, and, you know, I was listening to Hot 97, and they said something about her, and she called me, and I was like, you know, I was listening to the radio, and they said, and she's like, listen, let me stop you right there. She's like, I don't really pay attention to the press. I don't really get involved in the radio. And she's like, you're new, so, you know, you get a pass, but, like, you don't really need to bring up all the gossip stuff with me, so I don't really care. So ever since then, you know, I don't really pay attention. So, you know, truthfully, press was hitting me up asking me to confirm before I even realized that it was happening, because it's really none of my business. You know, and then I was like, and then she told me, and I was like, oh, okay, cool.
You were quoted in a recent GQ article about how celebrities can make quite a bit of money by just making club appearances. Could you just talk about the process of working with these clubs and getting your clients to kind of be a part of them?
I mean, it's crazy because you get so many emails and calls about appearances, and you don't know who's being serious and who's messing around and what's real and what's not. And, you know, you try to find, you know, safe clubs, and you try to find promoters that are reputable, but the reality is, you know, promoters, they lie every time they open their mouth. So, you know, you're trying to figure out, you know, what's a safe and good situation for your artist, and, you know, you just kind of work through it. It's all about supply and demand, and, you know, like you said, like right now China's all over the place, so she's got a huge demand.
And that takes a lot of toll on the celebrities, obviously. The article gets into it a little bit, just day after day after day having to do these club appearances and partying. It can be kind of draining, as you mentioned earlier with Lil Jon. Do you ever feel like you almost have to be somewhat of an athletic trainer where you're trying to get your celebrities to kind of peak at the right times to get that right energy to be the life of the party?
I mean, it's actually kind of works the other way around. Like, I'm always telling them to work as much as they can, because, you know, your window closes, it can close really quick, and that opportunity to make money, you know, while it's here today, it seems like it's never going to end, but it could end, and then, you know, all of a sudden you're finding yourself looking for work. So I typically am telling them to work as much as they can while the opportunity's there, because it might not be there forever, whereas they're, you know, wanting to incorporate personal things in their lives and days off and stuff like that, and I'm like, work.
Yeah, in your BlackBerry commercial that you did that we played before this, you mentioned that you get very little sleep and it's just a couple hours every night. How do you manage to keep functioning every day, especially when you're doing like a party life that is kind of draining by itself?
The crazy thing is I go to sleep when I'm tired, and I wake up when I wake up. So unless I have like a 6 a.m. flight or something that I know I need to get up for, I really don't set an alarm. So if I'm tired tonight at 8 o'clock, I'll go to sleep at 8 o'clock. I won't drink like 3 Red Bulls or coffee or whatever the case may be to try to stay up because I got to get things done till 2 in the morning. I'll just, you know, if I'm tired, that's it. And if I wake up at 6, so be it, I'll start at 6. If I wake up at 10, so be it, I'll start at 10. But it just happens that I wake up at 6 or 5 because I'm like, I enjoy what I do so much that I'm just like ready to go. But I don't really push myself like that.
You're just one of those lucky people who don't really need to sleep too much or have to worry about it.
I mean, I guess you know, it's crazy. Like if you think about like a 3-day weekend, people talk about trips and what they want to do and where they're gonna go, and like, you know, a 3-day weekend for me might be going in on Friday with, you know, food for the weekend and not coming out till Tuesday with a beer. Like, I'm good. Like, so like, I actually do sleep a lot. It's just like, you know, I do it in different ways, right?
In recent years, you've been able to promote kind of hit singles with epic records such as Travis Scott's Antidote or Classic Man. Could you just talk about the process of trying to ensure that a song, once it's released, becomes a hit single?
I mean, hit singles are hit singles, right? Like, you know, I can't, you can't really make a song a hit. You can just do your best to get it heard and to get the right people to listen to it, and then to communicate success stories as they come up. So, you know, a song like Travis Scott or a Jadena, you know, that were at the time new artists, at least to the radio world, you know, it's a lot of convincing to do, because what a lot of people don't realize is a radio station might have one new slot for music a week, and, you know, that Jadena might be competing with Jay-Z, Beyonce, Rihanna, you know, Kanye, all for that one slot. So you have to have a compelling argument of why you should get that slot versus someone else. And, you know, and then sometimes it's a relationship. Sometimes it's just like, hey, listen, this is really one, and you got to believe me. And if you have a good track record, then sometimes they'll give you the benefit of the doubt.
Are you finding these days to get to that point, you're working more with radio stations to make sure you get that radio play, or with the rise of streaming apps, it's a lot of conversations with places like Spotify where you want to get that featured spot on the homepage?
Well, in my role at Epic, I just deal with radio. So, I mean, obviously the label has sales and other departments that deal with Spotify and streaming and all that stuff, and it has become more important, but my focus is just radio.
In recent big DJ news and hit single news, there's been the Calvin Harris and Taylor Swift controversy where she's been saying that she wrote the song. Do you follow any of the sort of kind of marketing controversy that follows these hit singles? Does that seem to you like something that might be kind of behind the scenes?
I really don't, and I'm not familiar with that particular scenario, but I mean, who knows? I mean, they were boyfriend and girlfriend. Who knows what they're fighting over, right?
At Epic Records, you've got to work with L.A. Reid quite a bit. Could you talk about if he's been sort of a mentor to you? Obviously, that's what he's been doing for a couple decades, just mentoring people. What sorts of things have you learned from him?
I mean, people always ask me, they're like, why did you go back to a label if, you know, you have this DJ agency or booking agency? Like, why would you possibly want to do both? And the truth is, the opportunity to work with someone who has that much history and that much respect. And, you know, like, I remember when I was 20, I thought I knew everything, and when I was 25, I thought I knew everything, and now I think I know everything. But when you sit down and you talk to some people that really know more than you, it's kind of like you just got to keep it all in perspective. So, you know, definitely, it's not like a training to where we sit down and there's like a class, but, you know, you just learn by experience.
Yeah, has he been able to give you any ideas for how you're going to grow SKAM artists in the future?
Not specifically, but, you know, in general, the LA and Epic has been very supportive of the situation. And so, you know, they know I do it and they can help me. And, you know, every time Epic does an event, you can pretty much bet who the DJ is. It's one of mine, right? So they've been very supportive. And I think, you know, as the company develops, you know, whatever ideas I have, or if they see a window, we'll definitely do them together.
Last year, you had a huge 40th birthday party in Manhattan. Could you just talk about what it's like looking back, starting in such a more smaller party scene in California, and now getting to throw these huge multi-venue parties now just a couple decades later?
Yeah, well, see, I believe that we entertainers have kind of lost the sight of what it is, and that's to have fun and entertain. And, you know, a lot of times when people throw birthday parties now, they're like, hey, you know, can you come to my AOL, can you come to my birthday party, and will you buy this table? Or, you know, like, Lil Jon, will you come to my birthday party, but can you perform 2 songs? And it turns into like a money-making thing. And so, you know, when I turned 21, I threw my first annual 21st birthday party, and it was always meant to not be about money, but to be about the party and to be about having fun and to invite my roster and invite my clients. And this was one night where I didn't need them to work, and I wasn't trying to exploit them, and I wasn't trying to get people to buy bottles. And, you know, I never have sponsors, so it's not like you have to, if you want a beer, you can only drink this beer, and if you want tequila, there's this tequila, take it or leave it. It's just a party, it's just fun, and it's a night where, you know, it's crazy because I remember last year, like, Nick was there, Amber was there, Swiss was there, and, even people that I've worked with, like Ashanti, that I don't necessarily represent now, but have been part of my life throughout the years, they come out and they support, and, it's just fun to see, 200 or 300 people that are all friends, having fun.
So in kind of wrapping up, how do you see SKAM artists going from here? Obviously, you're balancing a couple jobs right now, and you're not sleeping very many hours every day, so you're probably at some sort of production limit every day. But how do you want to transition as you go forward?
I mean, the crazy thing is I always tell people, is I never had like this master game plan, and I never had this strategy of what SKAM was going to be. I kind of take it day by day. We recently just built 7 studios in LA, so we're definitely getting into helping our clients with production and music, and definitely want to consider doing a label. I definitely want to be a full service agency, not just DJs, but acts and live acts and performers, and if I can figure out country, I'll do it, right? So it's all good.
I think we have some audience questions as well.
Yeah, hi. Are there any particular artists that you want to recruit for SKAM artists, and what are the specific criteria in order to be a SKAM artist?
I mean, there isn't anybody per se that, I'm going after, I'd love to work with. I mean, anybody who's successful, the door is open. In terms of being on the roster, it's just timing. It's, a lot of times a big talent buyer will come to me and say, hey, this is somebody that we believe in. A lot of times the DJs as a group will come to me and say, listen, this guy's really good, which is really rare, so that they'll come to me. But, it just happened recently. There's this girl DJ in New York, her name is June, and like 4 of the guys came up to me and they were like, yo, you gotta bring this girl on, you gotta bring this girl on. And they never really put that kind of pressure on me, and when they do, it's pretty much a no-brainer.
Hey, Sujit, how's it going, man? I'm wondering, what are some of the things you look for when trying to court new artists for your label?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's music business, so I look for the ability to make money. So, 10% or 15% of nothing is nothing. So I'm not in this for, while it is fun, it's a business. So I really look for the opportunity to either they're already making money and I think I can make them more, or we can make money together.
I think we have time for one more question.
Hello. I just wanted to know your opinion on celebrity DJs like Paris Hilton, who don't necessarily work their way up to become DJs, but use their celebrity name to get the position.
I mean, you'd actually be surprised. Somebody, like celebrity DJs probably have to work twice as hard because they're scrutinized every step of the way. So I think that, there's a customer for everything. And, if people weren't paying to see her, then she wouldn't have a business. So it's, it's not my place to say what's right or wrong. And if somebody's willing to pay for it, whether it's a scratching DJ or a DJ that can blend good, or a celebrity DJ or a guy DJ or a girl DJ or a DJ duo, if there's a business for it, then God bless them.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming out.